All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are out there in the world. Thanks so much for taking the time to join me here today. We are live. We are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn, and we are on YouTube as well. So I wanted to get us going here and talk about really the most important thing when it comes uh, to growing your career. Quite honestly, I'm going to talk really from the standpoint of there are some key things that you need to do in a specific order to really be able to grow your career under this umbrella of maybe turning those skeptics into supporters, and really having people recognize you for the authority that you have for you to be able to continue to grow your career. So with that, I'm going to start with a really, really key thing that's the most important topic that I have ever taught on. All of my clients that I work with, we start here almost initially off the bat because it is just that important, just that critical for you to be able to master that. And that is the concept of trust. The most important thing that you can do as a leader is to establish and maintain trust. And there's a key way that I'm going to show you here in a minute on how to do that. Understanding how trust is built is probably one of the most important skills that you can learn, because once you understand how trust is built, both from your perspective and from the perspectives of the people who you work with and who you engage with, both your peers, your direct reports, people who are working in different departments that you interact with, other companies that you interact with, and especially your leaders and other stakeholders, the better that you can understand how trust is built, that's going to be so critical for your growth as an individual, for your career, and also in your growth as a leader. So let me take you to this model that I often will teach. And this is something that I learned years ago. It was developed by a colleague of mine. And it really has been so impactful for so many leaders who have learned this. And it's a concept called the trust ladder. And in the trust ladder, it really is a way that trust grows over time, depending on how you build trust initially. There's really two ways that people start building trust. There's two lenses that they look through. They look through a lens of credibility or a lens of likability. And that's where trust starts to be built. That's the basic foundation of trust. It's either grounded in credibility or it's grounded in likability. So let me break those down to you. And it's generally driven off of what your preferences are as it relates to your personality. So if you have more of a task-oriented preference or more of a work-oriented preference, then you will tend to build trust more based off of credibility. And what that means is I want to see evidence over time of you consistently delivering, you consistently keeping your word, you consistently doing the things that I can start to expect from you, that I can rely on you for. The more consistently over time that you prove that you're credible, that I can rely on you, then that means that trust is going to grow. But that also means that I'm going to start to like you as a person a little bit more. But I'm not going to get to the point where I have any type of emotion, any type of connection with you unless you can prove to me that you are credible, and then I can start to trust you. That's how trust is built, through that credibility lens. Now, the other side of the ladder is the likability lens, and that's for people who have more of a people preference, more of a feeling preference. And what that means is I want to be able to understand and buy into you as a person. I want to start to build a relationship with you. I want to engage with you on a personal level. I want to see, are you someone that I want to invest some of my emotional capital in? And when I do that, then that allows me to start to trust you more. Now, the more that I like you, the more that I start to build a relationship with you, then the more I'll give you that trust that I expect, and then I would like back as well. Here's where that is so important for you to understand, because if you are someone who builds trust based off of likability, and you're working with someone who builds trust off of credibility, you have two different opposite polar opposites kind of working together, trying to find a place where trust can be built. But if you're trying to build it from two different places and you don't have the awareness of what the other person needs, it's going to be really hard for you to truly build that trust. So that's why it's so important to understand how do I build trust first? Because that is going to be your default. That's what you're going to start doing. That's what you're going to initially do, is you're going to try to build trust based off of the way that you like for trust to be built with you. But if that's not connecting with the other person, it's going to be very, very hard. So how can you tell? How can you tell if somebody is someone who builds trust based off of credibility or likability? Well, part of that is, as you're engaging with them, see what are the things that they are asking for. Do they generally open the conversation with things that are going to be task driven, that are going to be outcome driven, that are going to be, completion driven? Are they looking for results right away? That usually is a clue that they may have a preference for credibility and how they build trust. If it's someone who likes to build a little bit of a relationship, wants to have some personal chit chat, wants to engage a little bit on things that are not necessarily related to the task or not necessarily related to the result immediately, then that's an indication, that's a clue that that person may have more of a likability preference, maybe more of a preference for likability. And that means that they are looking for that relationship to exist before they can trust. And I'll give just a couple of examples of when we've seen that before. I worked with a group, and there were a number of managers in that group that would go to visit different locations. And at one location, this manager said that they would want to just go in, get things done. And then the other manager who was on site, it felt like that they were chasing them out to their car, just trying to ask them about their weekend or ask them about their kids. They were just trying to find some connection. And the manager who would go to visit was just kind of annoyed by him. It's like, I don't know why any of that is relevant. It's like, well, that person was trying to build trust with you. They're trying to build a relationship. They're trying to build a connection. And there was friction because the trust didn't exist, because you went in with one objective, the other person had another objective. You're trying to get to the same place of having a trusting relationship, but again, that friction was there because you had two different approaches, and neither one of them was aware that the other one was trying to build trust in a different way. So that's one example that I've often used, and it's been like, aha moment. I get that. So depending on where you're starting to build trust, the more that you invest in that trust, the more that you invest in getting to know the different people, the different relationships, then you're going to continue to grow your trust as you move up that ladder. So over time, the more, if you start on the likability side, the more that a relationship is built, then the more trust is given. And then there's less of that desire to try to build the relationship, because you can kind of always lean on the relationship that exists. So then you can get to some more of the tactical things a little bit quicker if you have that preference from the credibility side. Now, from the credibility side, if you're just going in and just looking for things to be done, completed, you're just looking for that evidence over time, recognize that you're going to get that, but there is going to be a little bit more of a personal investment that you'll need to give in order for you to connect on that personal relationship level. All right. So trust is that first foundation. So I want you to stick around through the end of this. I'm going to give a couple of offers at the end. I have a new free report that I'm going to share with people who are able to stick around through the end and drop something in the direct messages for me. But yeah, stick around for that. Some more to come. So let's move from trust to influence. Now, remember, I told you, I'm going to kind of take you through the 4 important things that you need to do to be able to grow. But the first part is trust. So establishing that foundation of trust is the most important thing for you to do. Once you have built trust, once you've established trust, once you've grown trust, once you've nurtured trust, once trust exists, it's interesting what happens next. Because next, once you have trust, then you start to automatically get influence. And influence is such an important thing as a leader. Because when you have influence, when you're able to influence people, it's not just influencing those that work directly with you. Of course, you can influence your direct reports. Of course, you can influence the people who are connected to you. You can influence your network. But once you can start to demonstrate that you have that influence, and you have what I have on the screen there, you've built up that emotional and intellectual capital with others, then that will allow for your influence to grow, and will allow you to get influence sooner, where you start to become someone where that people start to rely on, or people start to look forward to what you have to say, add, or contribute. So when you've moved from that place of trust, you've built that trust up to when you then have influence, the next stage is authority. And authority is really when you are able to start to shine and blossom. And as a leader, Authority is not about control. It's not about power. It's not about, kind of poking your chest out or being the big voice in the room. That's not what authority means. Authority is really more about a presence. Authority is about a feeling. Authority is that over time, when you've consistently delivered positive influence, you've consistently delivered good and valuable insights, you've consistently been able to influence change or influence people in a way that has helped them grow or that's helped the organization grow or that's got positive results, then you'll start to get that authority. And that authority is that next level beyond influence. Influence is just where you're is when you're starting to get your foothold, when your voice is starting to get recognized. Authority is when your voice starts to become the one that counts. Your voice starts to become the one that can be a decision maker or that can get closest to a decision. So that authority is really valuable as you want to grow your career, but you can't skip steps. You can't jump ahead in the line. You can't go right to authority. First, you have to establish and nurture trust. Then you will start to get influence. From influence, you will start to gain and grow your authority. And then the last part of this framework that I want to share with you, after you've gone through trust to influence to authority, the last part of the framework is that's when opportunities will present themselves for you to get promoted, for you to grow in your role, for you to expand your territory. Once you have established trust, once you have gained and grown your influence, once you have gotten a level of authority and been able to demonstrate that you can responsibly handle that authority, then opportunities will present themselves. This is the way that it's always worked in this flow. But a lot of times people will get frustrated and they'll get stuck either at the point where they haven't really established the trust that's necessary in order for them to gain influence, and they feel as though that they're beating their heads against the wall. They start to doubt themselves. Maybe they're at that point where they have a small amount of influence, but the influence isn't where they want it to be, and they don't see that they're going to be able to grow. This framework, understanding that you have to start building by trust, establishing trust, learning how trust is built between individuals based on their preferences, growing that trust, that will then lead to that influence that you want, that you seek, that you need. When you get that influence, I've also noticed and seen and experienced that builds a lot more confidence. And when you have influence and confidence, those really help you in that space of authority. So for those people that struggle with imposter syndrome, I talk about imposter syndrome a lot. It's something that a lot of leaders really are trying to find a way to overcome. That blind spot often, or that obstacle often, is in that space between influence and authority, because they have not yet got the confidence, they have not yet gained the confidence, or have not yet seen the fruits of their work to have the confidence step into that place of authority. And so they don't feel as though they've earned it. They don't feel as though they deserve it. They don't feel as though that they can take that authority. And so that starts to shrink their influence. You see how that can work in reverse. It can start to shrink their influence, and your influence can be impacted by self-doubt, by fears, by concerns, by that lack of confidence that you may have, and you're going the opposite direction from where you need to be. So start with trust, then grow and gain your influence. And then when you get that authority, build upon that authority, and that's where those opportunities will come into place. That's where you get the opportunities to grow your career. That's where you get opportunities to show different things that you can do. That's where you get opportunities to really shine and expand, because that's the way that people will think. They'll see that you've built trust. They'll see that they would have heard or experienced your influence. They would have recognized the authority that you've had when you've been able to step into spaces and demonstrate that authority. And that opens up the doors for opportunity. So if you're out there, you're thinking like, how can I grow? How can I grow my career? How can I really expand beyond where I am? Really think about this framework. Think about, have I built trust in a way that will allow me to gain influence? If I have influence, do I use that influence? Am I confident enough in that influence for that to transition into some authority? And then from that authority, that's where those opportunities will come into play. And as you're doing that, you'll see the different times that people will start to recognize you. You'll see the different opportunities that you'll have to grow and expand your career. You'll have opportunities to grow and expand kind of what you're doing and the things that you would like to do. All right. So keeping this framework in mind, this is really part of what I share in my Career Accelerator Bootcamp. This is just one small slice, one small segment of what I share in that Career Accelerator Bootcamp. I only have a few spots remaining for my upcoming cohort. So if that's something that you're interested in learning more about, I absolutely would love to talk to you. I'm transitioning from that one-on-one coaching model to the group coaching and community model, because that way I can impact more people in a meaningful way. And that's something that's very, very exciting for me. These models that I showed you, the trust ladder to begin with, that framework that I showed you around trust, influence, authority, and opportunities, these are proven business models for career growth. I've seen it time and time again. I've worked with numbers of people, hundreds of people who were able to leverage the things that they learned, models around trust, around communication, around change, around leading in the moment, around empathy, have been able to use those models to completely transform their careers from where they were to where they wanted to be and beyond. So I'm excited to be able to share those. There is a limited time for my upcoming registrations, so please go ahead and if you're on LinkedIn, go ahead and hit me in the DMs. Let me know that that's something you're interested in learning more about. Now, here's a special offer that I talked about. I have a new online quiz and scorecard for leaders that is coming out. So it's a leadership scorecard that really measures your influence and your authority. So if that's something that you're interested in, it's a really quick 12-question quiz, but gives you some fantastic insights. If you're interested in that, I'm just getting ready to launch it, but I will do a preview. If you hit me in the DMs with quiz, hit me in the DMs on LinkedIn with quiz, I'll go ahead and send you that link so you can be one of the first ones to take that assessment. 12 questions should only take you a few minutes to do. From that, you're going to get a free leadership report and also an offer to do a 30-minute one-on-one debrief with me. That's something that I would love for you to take advantage of. Mike, thank you so much from Nashville. Really appreciate you joining. So that's what we have for today. I want you to get back to your day, give you an opportunity to get back to it. Thank you so much for the time this morning, this evening, this afternoon. Have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful rest of your week. Again, if that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and DM me on LinkedIn with quiz for that leadership scorecard. And I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye-bye.